Peacemaker, Season 2, Finale, Episode 8, titled Full Nelson. James Gunn, you have been absolutely on a torrid storm in creating your universe. But this episode, we need to talk. All right, guys, Brett here back for Geek France. We cover a lot of geek content, whether it's Marvel, it's DC, anime, etc. But this time we're talking about Peacemaker. And this could possibly be one of the worst finales I think I've ever seen for any series. And we were coming in red hot after episodes 6 and 7, which were absolute bangers. Sure, we're covering a lot of tough and touchy subject material that was very hard to make work, and Gunn worked and weaved and bobbed through that minefield brilliantly. But when it came time to stick this superhero landing, I think we landed face first, booty cheeks up, so to speak. There was literally one thing that happened this entire finale, and there's the most predictable arc, trope, subject, storyline, whatever you want to call it. Flag got his get back. Chris is in an alternate dimension. Our Peacemaker is now lost in a place called Salvation for who knows how long in a forest inhabited by we don't know what. That's what happened. That's our whole finale summarized. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be metaphorical. I'm not trying to be super meta about this. That was the finale. And there was about 45 minutes of fluff before that. So it's kind of interesting to see that we had so much working for us to end up at this point. And here, let's talk about the fluff just so I can at least, kind of articulate our points and kind of get things better fleshed out so you can kind of feel the way that I'm feeling. And of course, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me if I'm completely off my rocker and you loved it. Want to hear it. If you're just as mad as I am, I want to hear that too. Because in this finale, we started off with Chris just being a big, dopey, mopey baby, caught up in his feelings. And hey, I get it. You just had a family reunion again that ended just as poorly as the Hatfields and McCoys ended the first time we had back in season 1, where we had to eliminate our father after we know we eliminated our brother. And then we get introduced to this new dimension where we eliminated ourselves. And then Vigilante was a little too quick with a knife. And now we're missing our father again. And our brother is in the back of an ambulance. And well, things went sideways. What can you do about it? He's a little mopey and he thinks he's cursed. He's got all these feelings deep inside of him where he wants to isolate himself from his friends so that they don't start getting cursed like him and putting him in the same exact bad state. And to that, I understand. But then calling yourself the angel of death while you're hanging out in prison is not really metal. That's just kind of being an edgelord. And well, DC's already got one, and he resides in Gotham, and he's kind of the best at it. So maybe leave it to the professionals because it's not your thing. We see that Argus has been experimenting with these doors, and they were experimenting with these doors for one reason. They're looking for a perfectly habitable world that they can use as a prison, well, one-way prison, I might add, for meta humans. Where have we seen this plot before? Oh, gee, I don't know. Might have been a movie that dropped that James Gunn directed that had some dude wearing his underwear on the outside, like a red cape, maybe big old S on his chest, symbol of hope kind of thing going on. That guy. Yeah, they literally copy and pasted Superman's ending and just brought it right on over. For Rick Flag's character arc, this makes literally no sense. I understand having your get back and being the one to really stick it to the dude who murdered your son. But for you to call Lex Luthor a maniac and a psychopath and his ideas don't make sense, and then in this show, the very next time we see you to do the exact same thing, the exact same way, hiring Lex's workers to do this exact same process, it's just a touch hypocritical, and it's the complete character degradation. I understand vengeance brings you down this dark road where you start making decisions that don't always make the most sense, and you hurt a lot of people you care about, and sometimes you lose yourself and you get lost in the sauce, so to speak. But yeah, this kind of ruins it, especially considering the fact you were also hooking up with a metahuman. Your girl, Sasha, you're she's a metahuman. You'd have to throw and lock her up too. You don't just get to pick and choose which metahumans go. You said all metahumans when you're pitching it to the government of the United States, I should add. That this is what this prison is being used for. So don't really know what you're doing, Flag. And then we kind of see that Adebayo talks some sense into Vigilante and is like, hey, use your money. We'll bail Chris out. Eventually, it does happen, even though everyone believes they're now blood cursed. And ultimately, we use some even more of this blood money once we finally got Chris, who's been running around in his feelings. He drives away and isolates himself even further. He stays at a seedy motel in the middle of nowhere to kind of work on himself, and adds has a breakup with her relationship that we didn't need to see on screen because we weren't working it on screen. Like, we could have literally left her a note and called it a day, but instead we had to have this tearful moment that literally had no emotional impact for me anywhere whatsoever. There wasn't a good build up in this. There wasn't like a nice crazy, I don't know, it just didn't hit for me. Maybe it hit for you guys, just not for me. And then we see that Vigilante, after all everyone else has confronted Chris because we went to go find Chris to, bring that mojo back to our team. Vigilante tackles him, tases him, and brings him back like a good friend does. If you don't have a friend that's willing to tase you, you don't really have a true friend. And they talk some sense into Chris, and they're just like, "Hey, you need to stop doing this. You made Adebayo is like, you made me believe that there was really good people in this world, that good things could happen, and I can make succinct changes in my life. Economos isn't being a coward because of you. Adrian believes in just getting things done because we don't really know what Adrian believes in other than he really loves animals, like that and curses. Seems to be really his two like major sticking points. And then we've seen that the boat moment meant a lot to our girl. It turns out she did exactly what we thought she did. She was smooching with John Cena. Good old Chris, our peacemaker, had a smooch with him on a cruise during a Nelson performance. And it was a good performance, but at the same time, half of this episode was dedicated to a musical concert. Either it was the actual opening for the show or a Nelson song that made them get so lost in the music that they decided to have their lips do Mortal Kombat together. So, of course, she pulled away because she's not really used to emotions and feelings, and toxic masculinity jokes abound. So their things are complicated. And then they used even more of this blood money to start a new agency called Checkmate. And for some reason, we hired Bird Blindness to come with us. We have our Economos, we got Ads, we got Adrian. We, of course, have Peacemaker. We got Hardcore. Eagly, of course, our team mascot and best and strongest team member. We hired Judo Master and Bird Blindness because I don't know. I don't know what he contributes. Him and Adrian seem to be hitting off though. They had fun, and they have a nice little montage. Everyone's happy. We're in our feelings. Things are going well. We have a new building. We got a logo. Everything's all jazzed up. It's pizzazzed. We're making friends. Things are good. Eagle, he's putting his shoulder on Economos' shoulder as the power of friendship, which was probably the most touching and actually wholesome moment of the entire episode. Actually had probably a stronger impact than a lot of other things that happened. And then Chris decides to, go out one time, and then he gets kidnapped by Flag and thrown in an alternate dimension, and that's where we leave off our series. I know James Gunn likes to build some red strings and lay some framework and do some of stuff like that, but James, you need to have actual substance in your episodes for your strings to hit. Otherwise, we have these super, super fragile threads that, well, people just aren't going to care about. And that's exactly what our issue was with DC originally when we had Zack Snyder. There was no depth, it was all show and pizzazz. Please don't go back. You're a far better writer than this man. You're a far more competent writer. We've seen what you've done with Guardians of the Galaxy. We saw what you did with Suicide Squad. We saw what Peacemaker Season 1 was. We've seen what Superman is. We saw what Creature Commandos was. All immaculate works. I give you your flowers for all of them. But for this ending of season 2, I just really can't. It was just bad. You you dropped the ball on this one, and I hope that Peacemaker is going to be able to recover, because that felt like 40 wasted minutes that probably could have been about 10 of just actual substance, maybe 10 minutes at most. So that's all I got to say on it. If you love the episode, hey, or love the content, be sure to hit the subscribe button. It's free, greatly helps us out, as well as hitting the like button, sharing, hype, all that good stuff. But I hope you enjoy the episode much more thoroughly than I did. I'll be back tomorrow for Tugananki, continuing on with their new arc. Saturday, My Hero Academia. Sunday, One Punch Man and Gachi Okuda will be back in the saddle for both of those. A lot of great content coming for you, the viewer. I'm Brett for Geek Variants. We will see you in the next.